turn the attention to MVP now, Ken. At BetMGM right now, Embiid's the third choice in the market, plus 750. Jokic is the favorite, plus 180. Luka, plus 550. Jason Tatum is 9-1. Giannis is 11. We talked a lot about SGA earlier in the show. Matt Moore just came out with us and said he likes this price for SGA to win MVP at 12-1. Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, two teammates with the Suns, 20 and 22-1 respectively. Steph Curry and Anthony Edwards, both at 25-1. That's where I have chosen to draw the line here. If you think anyone else is interesting, Ken, let's talk about it. But what about most valuable player about a month into the season?
It's I don't know if it's shaping up to be that interesting of a race. I know we've had some pretty close. Toxic is a word I've used before, just because the way some of the discourse goes around dissecting these players who are all awesome. They're all so good. Like, they all could win the award. This has been true the last few years with Jokic and Embiid and Giannis, and the conversations we've had the last few years with those players. It's always been really interesting. Is this one going to be interesting? So we started the year, basically, my theory was always, we're about done with this like current generation of like the best players. Like, they should kind of be on to winning the titles. For people who don't know, like, usually you win the MVPs, then you go on and you win the titles, and you're kind of done with MVP, and MVP voters are on to the next guy who's going to be like the best player in the league, and then he goes on to win titles. It's just like a cyclical kind of a thing, and it really like happens very rarely without fail. So like, Giannis won his, he moved on to titles, he hasn't won since then. And I know people kind of like, well, he came in second, he came in third. I've always said, like, I didn't think he would ever win another one. I think everybody was kind of on to the next thing. And Giannis was on to the next thing. Like, he wasn't trying to win. And then Jokic won his couple, and then really could have won last year. Like, was probably the best player in the league last year. Are voters like done with this, or is it actually he can win 3 and 4 because he's like won the title now and he's maybe one of the best ever, and we need to have that conversation, and like he can win more, like how Jordan won more and how LeBron won more, like more spaced out in terms of when they won their MVPs? Is he that, or is it kind of like, man, we're kind of onto it? Embiid wins last year. Is it back-to-back for him, and then he gets his title, or he doesn't, or I'm wrong, and then he kind of moves on to like the next phase of his career, which is solely focused on championships? And if these guys are going to be gone, like if they're going to be gone in the minds of MVP voters, which happens to every generation of every player, then who's next? Then who's there to pick up the pieces if we're not interested in these players anymore? And Luka was always, to me, supposed to be the next guy, and he was supposed to kind of be ready by now, and it's just kind of not happening. It's just kind of not happening. And I said this at the start of the year, like, he's kind of supposed to be ready, but I'm not sure. Like, I don't know who it's supposed to be. And a player that I brought up, like, well, he's early, but like this would, I guess, be the guy, is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who profiles really well in all the advanced metrics, whose team might win a lot of games this year. So we're kind of in this bridge year where like the guys who, like, the two best players in the league by all measurement this year, I shouldn't say the best player in the league by all measurement this year is Jokic. The second best player is kind of an argument between Embiid and SGA about who the best player in the league is up to this point in the season. To me, it's those three, the Grand Canyon, everybody else, and in MVP odds, it should be those three, the Grand Canyon, and everybody else in terms of their likelihood to win. So to me, like, the quote-unquote mistake in the betting market, it's not even like, I guess it's the order a little bit. It's kind of the pricing to me, because there's like a fundamental question that we're going to have to answer later in the year. And it's going to be a really stupid question, and I hope everyone's ready for it, which is, are people done voting for Jokic and Embiid for MVPs, and do they want something different? And if they want something different, the different thing is SGA. But they may not want something different. It might be like, you know what? These two guys are so good. They might be the two players on the 1 seeds in both conferences. They're like this era of the NBA, like it's bigs and it's these guys and it's Giannis. Like, this is what it is. Like, maybe we're not done with them. Maybe Embiid should win back-to-back, and then we're probably done with them. Or Jokic can win 3 and 4, and he's got a title now. I don't know how voters feel about that. And that came across big time at the end of last year. There was big Jokic pushback to him winning again. I don't know if there's going to be pushback on either of those two guys, because I do think they're just, if it's player quality, it's the two of them, then it's SGA, then it's 10 Grand Canyons, honestly, right now, and everybody else in terms of chances to win. I have bet a ton of Embiid, and I bet a little SGA, because I think they got a puncher's chance with Jokic, and I think it's those three. And yeah, Jokic's going to win a lot of the time, but like, I don't know how the voters feel about those candidates yet. I don't know if they're ready for something new. I really don't, and I almost don't want to bet any more than I already have until I get a little bit of an answer to that question.
Any reason to believe that there's another team in the East that can kind of like penetrate that group and like be one of the teams left standing at the end in the Eastern Conference, other than Milwaukee, Boston, and Philadelphia?
I've bet Miami, and I will not apologize for it.
Man.
Look, that team's obnoxious, and irritating, I like the way they're playing, man. Jaime Jaquez gives them like a different dimension. They've got enough guys. Like, they just have enough guys to get through this. You're seeing a more aggressive Bam Adebayo, and like, he's on my tiers list for MVP, and I know it's too early to have that, but that's what I do. It's going to be out on Friday. We'll have 15 players on the list because that's how it is early season. But like, Bam's being more aggressive. That changes the dynamic. That means that you don't have to rely on Jimmy Butler being Superman, because quite honestly, he hasn't been early season. They'll get Hero back. They've gotten contributions from Jaquez. Orlando Robinson's pretty good. Haywood Highsmith, like, they are finding these guys. Regardless of the Jokic situation, they've done really well. They are still exceptionally coached. Like, I just keep getting back to this with the coaching, which is when the playoffs come around, are you going to feel better with what's going on with Adrian Griffin in Milwaukee, with Missoula in Boston, or Eric Spoelstra and a roster of guys that nobody believes in, and I'm still going to have gotten my money on them early? So I think they're dangerous, though I will tell you right now, like, look, Philly's legit. Like, Nurse has them different. This team is wired differently.
Sixers different?
So,
yeah, big time.
It is different with Philly this year. Embiid's better, Maxi's better, the roster's better, the sets are better, the defense is better. That team's legit. Miami's legit. I really do think that capping the Eastern Conference by how you rank the coaches is not a bad approach in a league where we all tend to focus on who the best player is.
I talked about NBA most valuable player last segment. Matt Moore came on earlier in the show, talked a little bit about NBA MVP. It's early. Seems to me like Jokic, Embiid, SGA draw a huge line like the size of the Grand Canyon to everybody else. Do you have like a strong opinion, like a bet? Like, have you been making bets in this market? Like a minute, like 60 seconds on NBA MVP.
I've made a couple of bets on Jokic. Every time I've seen him on the other side of 2-1, I think it's a play. I don't know how you beat him in that market this year, honestly. I get it. Embiid deserves consideration. He should be your second choice. I would make Giannis third choice, not SGA, just because I think the potential for growing pains and some struggle bus for the Bucks is kind of behind us now. And they could thunder through the middle of this, the middle of this schedule pretty comfortably. And his offense has started to bounce. Like, his defense has definitely slipped, but people don't really care about that when they look at stats for deciding MVP. So I think we're probably deja vu all over again from last year's, what was that, 4 months of the horse race between Jokic, Embiid, and Giannis. Although this year it's pretty clear that they're stratified 1, 2, 3, and Embiid has the baggage of having a playoff flame out last year, whereas Jokic won a title. So don't think there's really much of an angle there, other than if there's an extended time where Jokic is out and the Nuggets look like they've handed off the 1 seed to even the likes of the Thunder, who are playing amazingly well. Like, if that happens, then I would be buying Jokic.
Joining us right now to kick off the Power Hour on this terrific Football Tuesday. Very happy that to have this next guest on the show. It's been a while since we've had him on. Obviously, one of the biggest names in all of sports media, co-host of the wildly popular Pardon My Take podcast. And you got to check out his coffee, Stella Blue Coffee. Absolutely outstanding. StellaBlueCoffee.com to check out the coffee by our guy, Barstool Big Cat, the great Dan Katz, who joins us here on the show on Twitter at Barstool Big Cat.
So I think everybody saw that video that got like every single, I mean, that's like college basketball media member, like who kind of, they're the gatekeepers. They like retweeted that and they were all like, pathetic. Like, can you believe this? And it was, for people who don't know, it was like a small market game, which probably wouldn't have been on TV anywhere, would have been on ESPN Plus or something, and nobody would have been able to watch it. And just like with a betting like graphic package and like a betting feel, and you're
which by the way is how we all talk while we're watching games at the end.
Which by the way is how every telecast is trending right now in all sports. Oh, by the way, just saying that. Anyway, were you surprised that happened? Because I feel like, I mean, you guys have done college football games, you guys have done other stuff. Like I'm sure the Barstool Cave for all the big events. Were you surprised that like that specific event got that reaction?
No, I wasn't surprised, because we are a lightning rod, and I do think there is the pushback in the gambling world is happening, where people are, getting upset that gambling is becoming prevalent everywhere. But the thing that I don't care about is I am authentic in that I've been a gambler my whole life. I'll die a gambler. Like, I love gambling. It's pretty much outside of my kids. It's my one passion that I love. So it's like, I'm going to be myself. We're going to be authentic. It was a 20-point blowout with a minute left. There's no one watching that game who isn't betting on that game or a family member. So it's just like the sports journalism world flips out. And then I didn't respond because I was like, you know what, I'm going to pretend it doesn't exist. But I want to just so badly respond to some of these journalists and be like, hey, guys, you know how you're going to be able to keep your jobs? Sports gambling is going to be pumping money into all these leagues. So shut up. Okay. That's the reality of it. No one's reading the newspaper. No one's reading the pool report and all this stuff. Just go along for the ride and realize this is the future.